Tony, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can see me. If you can't, please come forward to the front. Come as close as possible, and I'll just make sure I can sort out the presentation. Okay, clock is ticking, and hopefully I will not explode at the end. Welcome. I'm going to talk about modern cloud technologies for mission-critical environments. Let's start by saying, fact or fiction? How many of you have heard of cloud computing? Please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, and one's leaving. 4, another one's going. 5, it's like an auction. Anyway, fact or fiction? I'm going to talk very quickly about what cloud computing is all about. We'll talk about some of the different service models, whether it really is fact or fiction. I'll tell you what some of the government organisations are doing out there in the real world, and we'll conclude. So, cloud computing, is it a silver lining or storm ahead? Well, what is this all about, I hear you say, as some of you are leaving the room. Please come back in. Where do I use my computer? On a hill while sat in the clouds? Or sat on a plane? I know Tony does. He sent me an email the other day. It cost him many, many euros to do that. Still don't know why. Anyway, what is cloud computing all about? Cloud computing is a model for enabling convenient on-demand network access. Lots of people think it is just internet-based computing. It is not just internet-based computing, but it is all about being able to use infrastructure and systems that already exist, being able to collaborate more, to be able to enable applications and services, infrastructure to be available when you need them. Provides more efficient resource utilization. Did you know in the UK we have 200,000 plus servers, which 90,000 of them are running at less than 10% of their maximum processor utilization. So there's lots of spare capacity. So being able to use that, we can actually provide more flexibility. But also, it's about turning what could be capital investment in infrastructure into operating investment. And in times of austerity where everybody is skint, has no money, obviously that is very important. The origins, I talked about the internet. Well, my good friend Kevin Marks from Google, he said it comes from the early days when we drew a cloud from the internet. And Jeff Bezos, a guy I don't know, but I quoted him, CEO of Amazon, he talked about the cloud actually gets rid of all these infrastructure complexities and all these technical things, servers, applications, and so on and so forth. If you're a user, you just need something, you should be able to go to somewhere like a store, cloud store maybe, download it, get it, do it, so on and so forth. And Apple, to be fair, have made that pretty easy with their Apple Store. So what's this framework look like? Well, different sort of elements, starting at the top, the telecoms part. Lots of governments around the world are building private, secure, government-wide, high-speed broadband networks. We've heard a lot at this conference about TETRA and about LTE and about broadband. This is very much and could well be a mix of both fixed and wireless, but it is about providing that high-speed, reliable, dedicated broadband network. And most governments are building private, secure networks. You could call it their own intranet. So it definitely isn't internet-based cloud computing. But with firewalls and security, things can connect to the internet. There's different service models depending on how much you want. If you just want an application, download it from a private cloud, some sort of software product, then you would use software as a service. If you want a bit more than that, where you develop your own application, you want to stick it on some platform that is already in this cloud environment, you could use a platform as a service. And if you want, again, more than that infrastructure, you can use infrastructure. It's all about on-demand self-service, being able to get what you want when you need it, but obviously you need to design it right and get it right. Common points are there's lots of virtualization technologies involved. There is usually a low cost of actually developing some of these software applications. It is very much more service orientated, and obviously security is very important. And if we look at this slide, as I talked about then, software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, you actually can see, I'll point to this one over here, the different elements. At the bottom we have all the mechanical and electrical sort of parts all the way through to networking and servers, virtualization layer, the actual operating systems. And the higher up we go and the more that is provided, so that becomes infrastructure as a service. And as I said, this can be delivered, yes, via the internet. Different people can host things, and most of you might be using Google and Flickr and different applications today. But equally, when we talk about what governments are doing, they are very much building their own private cloud infrastructures. And then, of course, there's the hybrid, the best between both worlds. As I said, lots of governments building public sector networks. Broadband is important to them. Voice over IP is very well established. Another key fact, in the UK we have at least 20,000 Siemens ISDXs, most of them life expired. So if we build a public sector network, why don't we use voice over IP and soft DICSs and give everybody IP telephones and have less infrastructure, but a better actual service, less maintenance, and it is more software based. Public safety users are actually a bit worried about sharing all sorts of things and having mission critical IP voice running over these networks. Will it really work? But there are quite a few trials now in place. We see LTE and wireless broadband as a way that will actually change the way we work, and it won't just be about fixed users and government departments. It will be about remote users being able to access, download applications and need things on demand from wherever they are. So cloud concepts, for me, bring greater mobile collaboration. Fact or fiction? Once I said to boldly go where no man has gone, and I wasn't Captain Kirk. But what I can now say is when I first did a presentation similar to this and used the picture of the Enterprise, I am a Star Trek fan, I did say it was very much fiction. I can now say it's fact. Let's have a look. Metropolitan Police. Good friend of mine sat at the back, sells lots of things to Metropolitan Police. They've been talking about cloud computing for a little while. They put this press release out there saying that they are going to move to the cloud because of cost, being able to, share things, collaborate more, provide cloud services. Los Angeles, yeah, well, Google won this big deal. Los Angeles Police first thing said, we're not going on this cloud, guys. We don't like your security. We feel not very happy with this. National Institute of Science and Technology, a government department in the US, said, we're from the government, we're here to help. And actually, they wrote this government cloud computing roadmap. And if you want to Google that, they have all the answers. And they've actually done some good work there to put people's minds at rest. UK government. End of last year, they actually invited bids, £60 million. You think everybody in the UK, I read the news, they tell me we're skint, we've got no money. £60 million. Why do they put £60 million of cloud services out there to build this cloud? Because at the minute, they spend £14.9 billion across government on IT. They believe they can save 70% by building a private cloud network. The Canadians, good old Canada, they've actually done it. So the Department of Works there were the first to build a private cloud and to link across government with this community cloud where they have different suppliers and different things in an application store where you can download things on demand when you need them. And it's in its own secure environment and it works, and that's a good model for anybody thinking about these things. So we're here to talk about mission critical. Let's talk about how we make it reality. I'm a bit of a control room fan. I spend lots of time going around the world helping people procure control rooms. There's lots of them. They are large, complex systems. They're typically located locally. There's lots of duplication, lots of applications. And collectively, they cost billions of pounds or dollars to run. And as we can see here, they're made up of command and control systems, IC systems, PABX systems, GIS, backup, lots of seats. Usually all within one building, sometimes a couple of buildings. But they interface with lots of radio interfaces, lots of other databases, lots of applications. And there's lots and lots and lots of them. And please excuse me if anybody's from Iceland, but I just picked this picture as an example. There's lots of duplicated infrastructure. And if you think each one of those might cost $10 million to operate, there's lots and lots of money there for one government organisation. So, with the cloud concept, you can take a lot of the servers and software and actually run them more centrally. But equally, you can enable more flexibility. So if there is a major incident and you need a load more operators to come in, you can just get them to come in, download the application, get access to it, and use the system. Equally, if it's shared across police, fire and ambulance, and sometimes the police don't need all their capacity, they share that with the ambulance and the fire. So it is more about collaboration. So the future for me is about different organisations sharing common applications in a cloud with some links to the public cloud. There will always be, the need in control rooms for access to things like Twitter and Facebook and Google and the news and so on and so forth. But it will all be about sharing. And of course, as I said, greater collaboration. We see very much IP as a common backbone. And it's not just about software and command and control. It's about radio collaboration. Will voice over IP and radio come in the future? Will it be all about video? Command and control interfaces, situation rooms, data centers, public containment. Getting that information right time, right place will be important. But being able to scale up and scale down using cloud technologies, I think, is very important. Lots of people talk to me about security and the concerns. All I'll say without reading out every one is if you put things into a private cloud and you look at greater collaboration amongst government departments, everybody works for the government at the end of the day in this scenario. The private cloud enables you to do the majority of this. But we talk about austerity and we talk about money. What does the cloud really mean? I said there that the UK wanted to save 70% of 14.9 billion. A few more friends. Guy from Gartner said if you move your data center to a cloud provider, it will cost 1/10 of the cost. CTO of Washington, D.C., actually a very good friend of mine, has an office in the White House, and they say use of cloud applications can reduce costs from 50% to 90%. And finally, George Rees has said using cloud infrastructure can save 18 to 29%. Whatever the numbers, if you look at the cloud and you look at designing it properly, you can save money, and at the same time you can give yourself more flexibility and agility. So, I said fact or fiction, and I would make this factual. Let's look at the real world. Today, we see lots of application providers. Some of them will use things in the public cloud and the internet. Some of them will provide those also applications like Google will transfer things into a private, secure environment. But that list is growing. At the control room providers and the people around the show, I went round just before I came in here. That's why I was out of breath. And a number of these vendors all said, yep, we're doing it in the cloud. Yep, we're doing it in the cloud. We're doing it in the cloud. So they are all looking at, instead of providing large infrastructure systems, to be able to do things where people can share. This is a good example of both a private and a public cloud application in Miami, which runs on a Windows Azure platform, where you can phone up and you can actually record incidents and get things to be done on the non-emergency call management. But then you can actually log in and see what data they've put in and actually see when the guys are going to come and empty the bins and so on and so forth. And that's available on the internet. There's remote management systems and record management systems that enable you with high-speed broadband to download applications and lots of different data from this company, Total Enforcement, again, a Microsoft platform. But that's something in the States that has gone a very long way. Our friends from Frequentis have actually developed a cloud-ready command and control platform with central servers, and it supports multi-agency. So you can download this as an application and away you go. So again, if you've got the infrastructure and you set that up properly with all the servers, it's quite a powerful, flexible tool to have. And early at the end, a vision for the future. This one gets some people. The guy at Sun said users will trust service providers with their data like they trust banks with their money. True or not, we'll wait to see. But hosting providers, I think, do bring brutal efficiency for utilization, power and security, and more about collaboration and sharing definitely are things that people are looking at. Last, Specialist communications are moving from being hardware systems to standard-based applications, and we've seen that out there in the show. If you go around, there's a number of providers looking now at very much things like software-based ICSs and so on and so forth. So, for me, the summary, cloud computing concepts can change the way people run their ICT. There can be benefits and savings out there for you. There are real opportunities to exist about control room applications and about how you can collaborate. Your risks do need to be carefully managed, and you obviously do need to think and plan your transition carefully. And finally, I always say the guys up there in Iceland have actually the world's greatest cloud service provider. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robin. We have a little bit of time in case anyone would like to ask Robin a question. There's a question at the back there. If you could tell us who you are and where you're from.
My name is Tomasz Wojtowicz. I'm from Motorola Solutions. So could you elaborate what do you see as the biggest obstacle for the public safety and mission-critical organizations to adopt the cloud computing concept? Because I could see that one of the things maybe is the awareness. There were not so many people on the room. They started coming for the next session probably. The other thing is that there is a lot of legacy applications on the back end already developed with a lot of code, and not all that kind of stuff porting to the cloud would take a lot of money. Maybe the security constraints and concerns from the users.
I think, yeah, I mean, you asked the question and answered it at the same time then. I think for me, you know, the biggest one is all about the security and the trust. It is about, like I say, whether it's the IT managers and the people who are actually saying, well, let's do more collaboration, let's put things into private clouds. You then get the users who actually say, well, I don't really want to share things across multiple organizations. I don't want to put things into a private cloud site. I need to understand and know that particularly in my control room, all the equipment is next door. I want to be able to go and see it. I don't want it 100 miles down the road. So it is about making sure that people can understand that if these cloud networks are designed correctly, and in the private environment, very much the security concerns start to go away. But then it is about the availability and the reliability. So security is not just about will somebody steal my data, it also has the 3-point model of is it reliable, and obviously, you know, is it available to me? And availability in these environments is obviously very, very important. That all comes down to really how you design it and communicating with your users.
Anything else from the audience? Okay, so once again, thank you very much, Robin, and see you in the desert later.